What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode. I am Dr. Mike Axler, professor of exercise science, strength and conditioning coach, performance coach, and 60 plus time marathoner and ultramarathoner. And today we are going to be talking about something that, again, is near and dear to my heart, and that is what to eat before you run and after you run. So pre-exercise nutrition and post-exercise nutrition. And this is one of those things that was really, really difficult for me when I was coming up running halves and then running fulls. And then once I got to ultras, I really honed in on everything. And this is probably the hottest topic with my clients and with some of my students in my sports nutrition class is what do you eat before you go out and run every day, and then how do you fuel up for a race, because they shouldn't be all that different. Like, you should practice how you play, right? And on a personal note, like when I was training for my first few half marathons and full marathons, I had to train my gut. So I was getting tons of cramps and GI issues for a couple of years. I wasn't eating everything that I should have been eating. I had a little bit too high of fats, a little bit too high of refined carbohydrates, and it just really didn't work for me. And then when I got into the ultra game, I really started to hone in on just bananas, protein shakes, some bagels, and just learn to really eat on the run. So hopefully this science-backed episode helps you. If you're training for something or if you're getting ready for a race, perhaps this can help, perhaps not. So first off, let's detail why what you eat before and after you run matters. So it should seem obvious that before you go on a car ride, like a long car trip, if you're going to drive 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, whatever, you're driving cross country, that you're probably going to want to fill up on gasoline and or also get an oil change, get your tires checked, get a tune-up, because you want to make sure that the vehicle safely and efficiently gets you to your location. And that's going to be the exact same thing with regard for fueling. We know that our performance, our energy levels, and then our recovery is going to be largely contingent upon how we fuel. Further, looking at what we eat and how much we eat, we need to think in terms of glycogen replenishment and muscle repair. If you're thinking about the after, as far as what do you hope to gain from this run, this training session, this training cycle, we're going to want long-term adaptations. And when you're feeling exhausted at the end of a run or at the end of a race, your glycogen levels are going to be low. Your glycogen is your storage form of carbohydrates, both in your skeletal muscle and your liver. You're going to tap that out the more intense you run and the more volume you run, so the more amount of miles. So we need to replenish day after day after day. And also your muscles have to become stronger and more efficient. So looking at muscle protein synthesis and muscle repair, our nutrition is going to greatly affect how that works. Third, on why what you eat before and after run matters, looking at factors such as reducing the risks of fatigue, GI issues, and muscle breakdown. We want to make sure that when we're going into a run, we're feeling good. During the run, we're feeling great. And then after the run, we're not bonked and feeling horrible. We want to make sure that we're fueling throughout and recovering well. And lastly, on why what you eat before and after run matters is just enhancing training adaptations over time. If your goal is to run a fast 5K, 10K, half, full, ultra, whatever it is, you're going to want your mitochondrial biogenesis to set in. You want to build more mitochondria. You want to have stronger muscles, more efficient muscles, a faster running turnover speed. You want to have a better running economy. So you want to adapt every single day over the course of a mesocycle and the course of a macrocycle. So our nutrition is going to greatly impact all of those things. So if I've sufficiently sold you on why it's important to look at what we eat before and after a run, now let's look at the before. So we're going to break this apart into the main 3 macronutrients, and then next we're going to go into timing. So you probably know that carbohydrates are going to be your main fuel source, not only during exercise, but throughout the day as well. And mainly it's going to be that glucose, that monosaccharide, which is going to help us fuel throughout the day. And it is the only fuel source for our brain and our spinal cord, so our central nervous system. So we need even more glucose from carbohydrates to just fuel us through our workouts. So what should we eat before we run? We are going to focus mainly on carbohydrates. Next, and this is going to be second of importance, is going to be protein. Before a run, we should have a light to moderate amount of protein. We know that protein is going to help fill us up. We also know that protein is going to take a little bit longer to digest, so we don't want to go super overboard on protein. But the main thing here on why we want protein before a run is that it's going to help spare muscle breakdown. Obviously, we want to break down our muscle fibers sufficiently during a run so that they can come back stronger and more efficient for later, but we don't want to completely destroy those muscles and get rhabdomyolysis. We want to just have a modest amount of breakdown, not too much, so that we can recover and come back again tomorrow. So second of importance is going to be protein, and our third is going to be dietary fat. The way I like to think about dietary fat is that you should be having your healthy fats, so your mono and polyunsaturated fatty acids, your MUFAs and your PUFAs, when you're resting and digesting. Not right before a run, not right before a gym session. It's going to cause GI distress and it's really going to slow you down. So before a run, chillax on the fats. And lastly, on when to eat before a run, anywhere from like 1 to 3 hours before is going to be best to just maintain your blood glucose levels and really spark you into that run. Alrighty, so some simple and effective pre-run meals. For the carb sources, this is all going to be the same stuff. You don't need candy, you don't need soda, you don't need junk food of like, oh, I'm going to go work out, I need candy. No one needs candy. Candy is like a fun food for Halloween. You don't need candy before you run. Think about the healthy stuff, fruits, vegetables, and the whole grains. So any fruit, apples, bananas, berries, those are just my top 3. Whatever your top fruits are, do that. And as far as the whole grains, do whole grain breads, whole grain pastas, oatmeal. Depending on the time of day, you really want to prioritize around 45 to 65% of your plate coming from carbohydrates. Next, looking at protein sources. Again, we're going light to moderate here on our protein sources. Think in terms of complete proteins. So from the animal sources and the plant sources, you can go with something light, like a protein shake from whey with a little bit of milk or water mixing it up. You could do something like Greek yogurt, which I love, and even like eggs and egg whites. Or if you want to do a chicken sandwich or a turkey sandwich or a can of tuna fish, whatever works for you, just go light to moderate on the protein. And lastly, on the fat sources, go for something like low-fat peanut butter, not the high-fat stuff. So low-fat peanut butter, a handful of nuts, and whatever fat, whatever dietary fat is in eggs is going to be sufficiently fine. The Instagrammable avocado toast, that is for resting and digesting. That's for brunch with the friends. That is not for pre-run. Awesome. Now let's go what to eat after we run. So the goal of post-running nutrition is going to be first replenishing glycogen. Again, if you ran and you burnt off 600 calories, 700 calories, 800 calories, 900 calories, whatever, you're going to start to tap into that glycogen in the liver and the skeletal muscles, and you're going to start to have that kind of tired, bonky feeling where you're just like, ugh, you're kind of sluggish, like you don't even really want to look at your phone because you're tired. That means you're really depleting your glycogen tanks, and that's all right. So we need to get that back within the first 30 to 60 minutes. So again, what you eat, all the good carbohydrates, fruits, veggies, whole grains. And then second, our second goal of why we need to eat after we run is to kickstart your muscle protein synthesis, MPS, to make sure your muscles are coming back stronger and more efficient for tomorrow. So as far as the carbs, make sure to get in your healthy carb sources to refill muscle glycogen. For protein, anywhere from like 20 to 40 grams or whatever your daily protein goal is, make sure to get in some protein with carbohydrates after your run. And lastly, make sure to get in some fluid and electrolytes because you probably did sweat, even if it's during the winter time. I know down here in Florida in the summer, it's super, super, super hot. I don't go anywhere without my water and electrolytes. Awesome. So now on to some ideal post-run recovery meals. For the carbs, again, we're only going with the healthy carbs here. You don't need candy after your run. Complex carbs all the way, baby. So we got the fruits, we got the vegetables, and we got the whole grains. That's all the good stuff. Next, you're going to have a little bit more protein post-run than you did pre-run because now you're going to rest and digest a bit. It doesn't matter what you do. If it's a fast digesting protein like whey, or if it's a slower digesting protein like chicken, eggs, fish, meat, poultry, casein, it doesn't matter. Just get in a high quality protein source to recover. For the fats, get in the MUFAs and the PUFAs, the mono and polyunsaturated fatty acids from things like olive oil, salmon, avocados, nuts, and seeds. All the good stuff. Don't go for the pizza. That's saturated fat. That's for the weekends. Go with the healthy fats, the MUFAs and the PUFAs. And lastly, for timing with post-run nutrition, go within around 30 to 60 minutes. If you say, I'm not that hungry, that's fine, but just know that the longer you stay in that like tired, bunked state is a longer amount of time it's going to take to recover. There is ample research out there detailing that if you have a race 12 hours, 24 hours, 48 hours after a long training event that you did, a long practice, it's going to take you much, much, much longer to recover. So the faster that you can recover from your training run, your game, your tournament, whatever it is, the faster you're going to recover and have long-term adaptations. Alrighty, so some special considerations. We're going to look at duration, intensity, and time of day. So first is early mornings, and I'm no stranger to early morning workouts. When I was running my 100-mile weeks during my PhD, I was up at 3:30 a.m. and I would press go on my watch at 3:58 a.m. and stop promptly at 6 a.m. I'd run for 2 hours and 2 minutes, and I'd usually get in like 12 or 13 miles. And what I would do is I would have 2 to 3 bananas and a protein shake. It was more than enough carbohydrates and protein and liquid to fuel me and get me going. So if you're doing early mornings and you got a bad stomach and you really want to eat that early, maybe go for something light like Greek yogurt, a protein shake, an apple or banana, something like that. For long runs, you should really be carb loading a day or two before to really make sure that your glycogen is at its peak and your muscle protein synthesis is at its peak. So definitely, when you're going into a long run, whether it's 10 miles, 20 miles, 30 miles, whatever it is for you, make sure you're carb loading a day or two before, and especially before that, within the 1 to 3 hours before that long run, get in a hearty amount of carbs, proteins, and electrolytes. If you're someone who's doing 2-a-days, if you're doing a morning workout, an afternoon workout, or a morning and a night workout, your post-nutrition timing is going to be even more important. I tell this to my athletes, I tell this to my students. If you're someone who does 2-a-days because you're an athlete at school, or you're a professional athlete, or you're just a hard-hitting person who loves to work out, you need to think in terms of pre-exercise, post-exercise, pre-exercise, post-exercise. You're not thinking in terms of intermittent fasting, I'm going to eat a little bit here, maybe a little bit there. No, you need to ramp up and recover. Ramp up, recover. And lastly, for the older folks, err on the side of having a bit more protein. As we had talked about in other videos and on my Instagram page, that older folks typically are battling osteoporosis, sarcopenia, a less than advantageous hormonal milieu. So you're going to need a bit more protein to super compensate for that gradual muscle loss that happens as we age. So maybe 30, 40, even 50 grams of protein, depending on your goals, could really, really, really help you out. Alrighty, on what the research has to say about pre and post exercise nutrition. So we know that pre-run carbohydrates do improve endurance performance and reduce fatigue. So reduce rating of perceived exertion. And this should seem pretty intuitive. If you haven't eaten in 6 hours or 8 hours and you have to run on a treadmill, it's probably going to be much harder and it's going to kind of feel off Whereas if like an hour before you had a nice sandwich, an apple, and maybe had like a little bit of ice cream or something, right? You're going to feel better and perform better when you're fueled up. Second, post-run protein and carbs, that dynamic duo, are optimal for muscle repair and glycogen resynthesis. The way I like to think about this and the way that I tell my students is that carbohydrates are going to open up the doors to the muscle, and then protein's going to slide on in there and repair the muscle. So protein and carbs post-run, voila. The research also says that timing matters most for back-to-back sessions. So if you're someone who goes to the gym or runs like one time a day, that's fine. You can wait a little bit longer on your post-exercise nutrition because timing is not really a huge factor for you. But if you are trying to just crush it twice a day, maybe even 3 times a day, timing is going to matter most for you. And also, just big picture here, long-term consistency, the daily, every single day eating good food and working hard in the gym is much, much, much better than just short-term perfection. You're not going to be perfect every day. You're not going to feel wonderful every day. But if you keep cracking away every single solitary day, you'll make phenomenal progress. Alrighty, TLDR. Smart nutrition equals better results. That should seem obvious. So number 1, eat carbs and protein before and after your workouts. So always bookend with carbs and proteins. Number 2, focus on real food, not just supplements. If it comes from this earth, fruits, veggies, lean proteins, then it's probably good for you. Number 3, hydration, 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 and add in electrolytes, a little bit more sodium, potassium chloride when it's hotter outside. And lastly, number 4, do not skip meals. If you want to fuel the best possible workout, you're going to need to fuel for it. Don't be skipping meals and thinking you're going to be a better athlete. You need to fuel the tank. Awesome. And with that, we are finished for today. I do hope you enjoyed another episode. If you did, please like, subscribe, and share this with a friend, as well as subscribing both to my Substack and my Instagram, where I post very regularly about all things exercise science, strength and conditioning, sports nutrition, endurance, physiology, all the good stuff. So I'm going to go run and lift some weights. I hope you will too. And I'll catch you on the next episode.